Brooks versus Brooks. Custody of minor children Caleb and Chloe Brooks, age 4. We submit these finalized briefs to the court, confident they will affirm our position on this matter.
Adrianna Brooks sat alone on the wooden bench in family court, hands folded in her lap like she was praying. Maybe she was. At 32, she looked tired, not the kind sleep could fix, but the deep, bone-settling exhaustion that comes when life keeps taking until nothing remains to give. Her clothes were simple, clean but worn thin at the elbows. No jewelry except a delicate gold chain around her neck, the sort passed down from a grandmother and never removed. She clutched a manila folder to her chest as if it were the last thread holding her together. Across the aisle, her husband sat rigid, back straight, jaw locked, the posture of a man who believed victory was already his. Beside him was Simone Carter, the woman who had occupied Adrianna's bed for the past 6 months. Simone carried the unmistakable polish, designer bag at her feet, fresh manicure, flawless hair, makeup precise. She rested a possessive hand on his arm, claiming territory without a word. Behind them sat his mother, Lorraine, and his sister, Tracy, both wearing smirks that announced they had waited years for this moment. The bailiff's voice cut through the hum. Brooks versus Brooks. Custody of minor children Caleb and Chloe Brooks, age 4. Adrianna's heart clenched. Those were the twins she had carried for 9 months, delivered in agony, raised with every fragment of love she possessed, the same babies she sang to sleep each night while he claimed late work or meetings or whatever excuse kept him away. His lawyer rose, sleek in a suit worth more than Adrianna earned in 3 months. He placed documents before the judge with unshakable confidence. Your Honor, we present voluntary parental surrender forms signed by Mrs. Brooks 6 months ago, willingly transferring all parental rights to Miss Simone Carter, who has served as the children's primary caregiver. The courtroom fell into that thick, chest-pressing silence. Adrianna remained still, eyes fixed ahead, seeing something no one else could. Lorraine leaned forward, stage whisper loud. Probably sold those kids for drug money. Always knew she was trash. Tracy stifled a laugh. Never fit to be a mother anyway. Look at her. Can't even afford decent court clothes. Simone squeezed his arm tighter, arranging her face into saintly concern. The judge, an older black woman with gray locks and eyes that had witnessed every variety of human pain, peered over her glasses at the papers, then at Adrianna. Mrs. Brooks, do you recognize this signature as yours? Adrianna accepted the documents with steady hands. She studied them a long moment, lips moving silently over the words. Then she lifted her gaze. That's not my signature.
Now, Pulse, go back and click the like and subscribe button now so you won't miss the next story.
The judge's gavel cracked like dry thunder. Order, she said again, though the room had already gone still. Everyone felt the shift. The air had thickened, charged with something Adrianna's quiet words had released. Kwame remained standing, fists clenched at his sides. She's lying, Your Honor. She signed those papers herself. She walked away from her own children. Ask anyone. She disappeared for months. Lorraine nodded vigorously from the gallery. She was never around, always working those night shifts like the kids didn't matter. Simone stepped up. She's been mama to them ever since. Simone dabbed at her eyes with a tissue she'd produced from her designer purse. I love Caleb and Chloe, she said, voice trembling just enough to sound genuine. I've changed diapers, read bedtime stories, taken them to every checkup. Adrianna, she just left. Adrianna still hadn't moved from her seat. The manila folder rested in her lap now, unopened. Her breathing was slow, deliberate. She had practiced this moment in the mirror of her empty apartment so many nights she could feel the rhythm of it in her chest. The judge adjusted her glasses. Mrs. Brooks, forgery is a grave accusation.
If you're alleging these documents were falsified, I'll need more than your word. Do you have evidence to support your claim?" Adrianna finally stood. Not quickly, not dramatically. She rose the way Miss Geneva used to rise from the porch rocker when company arrived, slow, certain, carrying every year of hard-won dignity in the straight line of her spine. "Your Honor," she said, voice soft but carrying to every corner, "I would like to request a forensic handwriting analysis of the signature on those documents, and I have someone here who can confirm my identity and provide additional proof." Kwame barked a laugh. "Nobody's coming, Adrianna. You've got no one. You never did." He turned toward the gallery as if inviting the room to agree. Lorraine and Tracy exchanged smug glances. Simone squeezed his hand again, triumphant. Then the double doors at the back of the courtroom opened. Every head swiveled. A man entered alone at first, tall, broad-shouldered, silver threading his dark hair at the temples. His gray suit was cut so precisely it seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Behind him, 3 men in darker suits moved in practiced formation, eyes scanning the room with professional calm. Security, high level. The judge rose halfway out of her chair before catching herself. "Mr. Whitmore." Marcus Whitmore stopped at the end of the center aisle. His gaze swept the courtroom once, cataloging every face, every expression. When it landed on Adrianna, something in his features softened, only for a heartbeat, but long enough for those closest to see it. Then his eyes found Kwame. The temperature in the room dropped. "That's my daughter," Marcus said. His voice was low, measured, the kind of quiet that made people lean forward to hear. "Those are my grandchildren, and those documents are forged." A collective gasp rippled through the benches. Kwame's mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Lorraine gripped the bench in front of her so hard her knuckles blanched. Tracy's smirk vanished as though erased with a hand. Simone looked between Marcus and Kwame, color draining from her face. Marcus took 3 steps forward and stopped beside Adrianna. For a long moment, father and daughter simply looked at each other, 16 years of distance collapsing into the space between them. Then he opened his arms. Adrianna stepped into them without hesitation. Her shoulders shook once, twice. A single sob escaped before she pressed her face against his chest. "I got you, baby girl. I got you now," Marcus whispered, so low only she could hear. The judge cleared her throat, regaining composure. "Mr. Whitmore, you're making very serious allegations in my courtroom. I assume you came prepared with evidence." Marcus nodded to one of the security men, who stepped forward with a slim leather folder. "Yes, Your Honor, and we're just getting started."
The judge's eyes narrowed as she accepted the leather folder from Marcus's security man. She flipped it open and began reading in silence, page after page, her expression hardening with each turn. Marcus remained standing beside Adrianna, one hand resting lightly on her shoulder. He didn't need to raise his voice. The room was already hanging on every breath he took. "Your Honor," he continued, calm as still water, "the documents in question claim my daughter signed them on March 12th at 2:15 p.m. at the offices of Kessler and Pratt. Security footage from Mercy General Hospital, my hospital, shows Adrianna clocked in for a double shift at 11 a.m. that day and didn't leave until 7:47 a.m. the following morning. She was on the floor the entire time the alleged signing occurred." He gestured toward the folder. "We've included stills from the footage, time-stamped and authenticated. You'll also find 3 independent forensic analyses. All conclude the signature was not handwritten. It was digitally reproduced from a scanned copy of Adrianna's old employment contract with the community clinic.
pixel-level duplication. Not even a skilled forger could replicate the exact pressure patterns and ink bleed of the original. Kwame's lawyer shot to his feet. "Objection, Your Honor. This is hearsay. Mr. Whitmore is not qualified to testify to forensic conclusions." "Sit down, counsel," the judge said without looking up from the papers. Her tone left no room for argument. Marcus turned his gaze to Simone. "Miss Carter was employed in medical records at Mercy General until 3 months ago. She had full access to patient files, including my daughter's. She had the means to obtain original signatures, scan them, and insert them into fabricated documents. We have her employment records, access logs, and a pattern of unauthorized file downloads in the weeks leading up to these papers being filed." Simone's polished mask cracked. That's ridiculous. I would never—" "Be quiet," the judge snapped. "You'll have your turn." Adrianna finally spoke again, her voice steady but softer now, carrying the weight of everything she had held inside for months. "I didn't disappear, Your Honor. I was pushed out. My children were taken during what I thought was a routine weekend visit with my grandmother. When I tried to bring them home, police were called. I was told it was a civil matter. Supervised visitation, 1 hour, twice a week, under observation. My babies cried every time I had to leave them. 'Mommy, don't go.' I heard those words in my sleep." She paused, fingers tightening around the old envelope she still held. 16 years I carried it, never opened it until the night I realized they weren't coming back. Inside was the truth about who I am, about who my father is, about why I was never truly alone, even when I felt like I was. Marcus looked down at her, pride flickering in his eyes like sunlight on steel. The judge closed the folder with deliberate care. "Mr. Brooks, Miss Carter, I am ordering an immediate forensic audit of these documents by a court-appointed expert. I am also issuing a temporary emergency order granting Mrs. Brooks sole physical and legal custody of Caleb and Chloe Brooks, effective the moment this hearing concludes. Supervised visitation for Mr. Brooks is suspended pending criminal investigation into fraud and forgery." Kwame lurched forward. "Your Honor, please, I'm their father." "A father who allegedly conspired to erase their mother from their lives," the judge cut in, ice in her voice. "You don't get the benefit of the doubt today, Mr. Brooks, not in my courtroom." Adrianna exhaled, a long, trembling breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Marcus squeezed her shoulder once, gently. "Let's go get your babies, baby girl." She nodded, tears brimming but not falling. Not yet. Not until she held them again. The courtroom emptied slowly, but the echo of the judge's ruling lingered like smoke. Adrianna walked out first, Marcus at her side, his presence a quiet wall between her and the chaos behind them. Kwame stayed seated, staring at the empty bench where his lawyer had abandoned him mid-sentence. Lorraine and Tracy hovered near the rail, faces gray, whispering furiously to each other. Simone slipped out a side door, heels clicking too fast, too desperate. Outside in the marble corridor, Marcus's security detail formed a loose perimeter. Adrianna stopped near a tall window overlooking the city. Sunlight slanted through, catching the gold chain at her throat. She touched it absently, Miss Geneva's chain, warm from her skin. "They're coming home today," she said, more to herself than to him. Marcus nodded. "I've already arranged it. Social services will bring them to your apartment within the hour. I made sure the paperwork moved fast." She turned to him, eyes searching his face for the first time without 16 years of questions between them. "You knew where I was, all those years." "Every step," he admitted. "I paid the utilities on Miss Geneva's house so the lights never went out. I funded the scholarship that got you through nursing school. I kept tabs through private channels, never close enough to interfere, but close enough to know you were safe. That was the deal I made with Geneva. She raised you right, I stayed in the shadows. Adrianna's throat tightened. I thought I was alone. You weren't. You were protected. His voice cracked just once. But protection isn't the same as presence. I failed you there. She shook her head. You kept me alive. That's more than most fathers do. A soft chime from Marcus's phone broke the moment. He glanced at the screen, then at her. They're on their way. ETA 20 minutes. Adrianna's knees buckled slightly. Marcus steadied her with a hand under her elbow, gentle, unfamiliar, but sure. Back at the apartment, she moved like someone in a dream. She straightened the twins' room, even though it was already spotless. Stuffed animals lined up on the shelf, fresh sheets on the beds, a plate of sliced apples and peanut butter waiting on the small table. She had rehearsed this reunion so many times in her head, but now that it was real, every breath felt borrowed. The knock came at 3:47 p.m. Adrianna opened the door. Caleb and Chloe stood there, small backpacks slung over their shoulders, holding the hands of a kind-faced caseworker. Their eyes widened when they saw her. "Mommy?" Adrianna dropped to her knees. The twins ran, awkward at first, then all arms and legs and desperate clinging. She wrapped them both in, breathing in the familiar smell of baby shampoo and crayons and everything she had almost lost. "I'm here," she whispered over and over. "Mommy's here. I'm never leaving again." The caseworker handed her the emergency custody order, murmured something about follow-up visits, then stepped back respectfully. Marcus stood in the hallway giving them space. When Adrianna finally looked up, tears streaking her face, he smiled, the small private smile of a man seeing something he'd waited decades to witness. Caleb tugged at her sleeve. "Is that Grandpa?" Adrianna glanced at Marcus, then back at her son. "Yes, baby, that's Grandpa Marcus." Chloe peered up at the tall man with shy curiosity. "Do you have stories?" Marcus crouched to their level, knees cracking softly. "More stories than you can count, little one." That night, after baths and bedtime songs and one last round of hugs, Adrianna sat on the edge of their beds until their breathing evened out. She watched their small chests rise and fall, counting each breath like treasure. Marcus waited in the living room with 2 mugs of tea. She joined him, curling into the corner of the couch. "I told them the truth, at least the part they could understand, that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, but love doesn't stop, not real love." Marcus sipped his tea. "And Kwame? He'll face what he's done. The investigation's already started. Simone, too. They won't walk away clean." Silence settled between them, comfortable for the first time. "You don't have to do this alone anymore," Marcus said. Adrianna looked at him, really looked at him. "I never was. I just didn't know it yet." Outside, the city lights flickered on, one by one. Inside, 2 sleeping children dreamed safely, and a woman who had carried silence like armor finally let herself exhale.
The story broke the next morning. Local news picked it up first. Billionaire Marcus Whitmore intervenes in dramatic family court custody battle. Forged documents, fraud allegations rock local businessman. By noon, it was national. By evening, every major outlet had a version. Headlines screamed variations of the same truth. Trillionaire's secret daughter reclaims twins after husband's alleged plot to erase her. Kwame's phone rang non-stop until he powered it off. His supervisor at the medical sales firm called personally. "We're letting you go, effective immediately. The board feels your continued association is a liability." No severance, no reference, just a cardboard box waiting at his desk. He drove home in silence, radio off, mind spinning. When he pulled into the parking garage of his upscale condo, 2 reporters were already waiting. Cameras flashed, microphones thrust forward.
Mr. Brooks, did you know your wife was Marcus Whitmore's daughter? Comment on the forgery allegations? How do you respond to claims you conspired with Simone Carter? He shoved past them, shoulders hunched, saying nothing. Inside his apartment, he locked the door, drew the blinds, and sank onto the leather couch that still smelled faintly of Simone's perfume. Lorraine called first. Her voice was shrill, panicked. "They're saying the mortgage company is calling in the loan on my house. Full balance due in 30 days. Kwame, they own the bank. Your father-in-law owns the damn bank." Tracy's call came next, sobbing. "I got fired today. HR said my involvement in a high-profile fraud case made me a reputational risk. 30 years in human resources, and they cut me like I'm nothing. What are we supposed to do?" Kwame had no answers. He stared at the wall, at the framed photo of him, Adrianna, and the twins, taken at Chloe's second birthday. Everyone smiling, everyone whole. He couldn't remember the last time he'd looked at that picture without resentment. Now it felt like an accusation. Simone didn't call. Instead, federal agents arrived at her luxury apartment at dawn 2 days later. They had a warrant, document forgery, identity fraud, conspiracy to interfere with custody, unauthorized access to protected health information. They found encrypted drives in her home office containing dozens of scanned signatures, not just Adrianna's. She had been running a side business selling medical records and forged paperwork for months. Adrianna had been the one who finally tripped the wire. Simone lawyered up fast. In her first statement to investigators, she painted herself as the victim. "Kwame manipulated me. He said Adrianna was unstable, that she'd agreed to sign but changed her mind. He gave me the original documents to work from. I was trying to help him build a better life for the children." She threw him under the bus without hesitation. Kwame's lawyer advised him to plead out if charges came. "They've got video, forensics, witness statements, hospital logs. This isn't going away quietly." He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he scrolled old photos on his phone. Adrianna pregnant, laughing at a silly ultrasound joke. The twins' first steps, family vacations he'd barely been present for. Each image felt like evidence against him. A week later, the supervised visitation order came through for him. 1 hour a month at a neutral community center, monitored by a caseworker. When the day arrived, he dressed carefully. Clean shirt, no tie, trying to look like a father instead of a man who'd lost everything. Caleb and Chloe arrived holding Adrianna's hands. They hesitated at the door. Kwame crouched. "Hey, buddies. I missed you." Caleb stared at the floor. Chloe pressed closer to her mother. The caseworker nodded. "You can start whenever you're ready." Kwame tried. He pulled out the toy basketball he'd brought. "Want to shoot some hoops?" Caleb shook his head. "Why did you try to give us away, Daddy?" The question landed like a fist. Kwame opened his mouth, closed it. What could he say that wouldn't sound like an excuse? That he'd been chasing status? That he believed Simone's shine was worth more than Adrianna's steady light? That he'd convinced himself Adrianna was holding him back? "I made a mistake," he whispered. Chloe's small voice cut through. "Grandpa Marcus says mistakes are when you do something wrong once. You did it lots of times. That's not a mistake. That's a choice." Out of the mouth of 4-year-olds. Adrianna stood quietly by the door, watching. No triumphs in her eyes, only a deep, quiet sadness. When the hour ended, the twins ran to her without looking back. Kwame stayed seated long after they left, staring at the scuffed gym floor. Outside, the world kept turning. Inside, something final had broken.
Now Pulse, go back and click the like and subscribe button now so you won't miss the next story. 3 months passed like seasons turning slow. Adrianna moved the twins into a modest two-story house on a tree-lined street. Nothing extravagant, just enough room for a backyard swing set and space to run. Marcus had offered to buy something grander. She'd declined. "I want them to know home isn't about square footage," she told him. "It's about feeling safe." He respected that. He respected a lot about her now. She kept working at the community clinic 3 days a week, training new nurses on bedside manner and cultural competence. The rest of her time went to the twins: park visits, library story hours, baking lopsided cookies on rainy afternoons. Caleb asked endless questions about everything: why leaves change color, why Grandpa Marcus had so many tall buildings with his name on them. Chloe preferred quiet things, drawing pictures of the three of them holding hands with Miss Geneva watching from the sky. Marcus came over most evenings. He arrived without fanfare, no entourage, just a plain black SUV and a paper bag of takeout, or a new book for the kids. He read to them in his deep, steady voice, voices for dragons and brave knights, until their eyelids grew heavy. After they were asleep, he and Adrianna sat on the back porch with iced tea, fireflies blinking in the grass. One night she asked, "Do you ever think about what might have been different?" He stared into the dark yard. "Every day, if I'd stayed, if I'd fought harder to keep you both safe without hiding. But then I remembered Geneva. She gave you roots I couldn't have planted in my world. You grew strong because of her, not in spite of me being gone." Adrianna touched the gold chain at her neck. "She always said the truth shows up when it's ready. I guess she was right." Lorraine and Tracy appeared at the front door one Saturday afternoon, unannounced. They looked diminished, clothes plain, eyes hollow. Lorraine's hands trembled as she spoke. "We're losing the house," she said. "Everything. We wanted to say we're sorry. We were wrong about you, about all of it. If there's anything we can do—" Adrianna stood in the doorway, Caleb and Chloe peeking from behind her legs. Marcus appeared in the hallway, arms crossed, silent. "You helped take my children," Adrianna said evenly. "You stood in that courtroom and called me trash while your son tried to erase me. You don't get to walk back in because the consequences finally caught up." Tracy started crying. "We didn't know who you really were." "You shouldn't have had to know my father's name to treat me like a person," Adrianna replied. "You had a choice every day. You chose cruelty. Live with it." She closed the door softly. No slam, no anger, just finality. That evening, Caleb asked, "Why don't Grandma Lorraine and Aunt Tracy come anymore?" Adrianna knelt to his level. "Sometimes grown-ups make choices that hurt people they're supposed to love. When that happens, we have to protect our hearts, even from family." Chloe hugged her leg. "We protect yours, Mommy." Adrianna smiled, throat tight. "And I protect yours, always." Later, Marcus found her in the kitchen washing dishes. He dried while she rinsed. "You handled that well," he said. "I learned from the best." She glanced at the framed photo on the counter, Miss Geneva on the porch, braiding little Adrianna's hair. "She taught me mercy doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing peace over poison." He nodded. "You're raising them the same way." "I'm trying." The next morning, Adrianna drove the twins to the new children's hospital on the edge of town, Miss Geneva Memorial Children's Hospital. The building gleamed, bright windows, colorful murals, a playground shaped like a giant treehouse. She'd accepted the position as director of the nursing education program 2 weeks earlier. Free care for families who couldn't afford it, top doctors, compassion first. As they walked the halls, Caleb pointed at the plaque in the lobby. "In loving memory of Geneva Thompson, who loved loud in a quiet way." "That's great-grandma," Chloe whispered, awed. Adrianna knelt between them.
She's still helping people, even now. That night, after bedtime stories, Adrianna sat on the porch alone. Marcus had left early for a board meeting. The air smelled of jasmine and cut grass. She pulled the old envelope from her pocket, worn soft, edges frayed, and read the last line by porch light. You were never alone, baby girl. You were just waiting for the right moment to rise. She folded it carefully and slipped it back into her pocket. Somewhere in the distance, a train whistle sounded, long, low, moving on. Adrianna smiled into the dark. Her moment had come, and she had risen.
1 year to the day after the courtroom doors opened and Marcus Whitmore walked in, Adrianna stood on the wide stone steps of Miss Geneva Memorial Children's Hospital. The morning sun caught the brass plaque beside the entrance, making the words shimmer. In loving memory of Geneva Thompson. She loved loud in a quiet way. Caleb and Chloe ran ahead, sneakers slapping against the polished floor of the lobby. They knew the routine now, straight to the indoor garden where butterflies fluttered behind glass, then to the play area shaped like a giant treehouse. Adrianna watched them disappear around the corner, their laughter echoing off high ceilings. She wore navy scrubs today, name badge clipped neatly. Adrianna Whitmore, RN, Director of Nursing Education. She still used Brooks on legal papers for the twins' sake, but here, in this place built from love and legacy, she carried her father's name without apology. A group of new nursing students waited near the elevators. Adrianna greeted them with the same calm warmth Miss Geneva once used on porch visitors. Compassion isn't a technique, she told them as they walked the pediatric wing. It's a choice you make every shift. You'll have days when the charts pile up, the call lights won't stop, and someone will yell at you for something that isn't your fault. In those moments, remember why you're here. Not for the paycheck, not for the prestige, for the person in the bed who's scared or hurting or alone. Treat them like family, because they are someone's family. One student, a young woman with braids and nervous eyes, raised her hand. How do you stay kind when people are cruel? Adrianna paused outside a patient room where a toddler slept under soft monitors. You remember who taught you kindness first. My grandmother worked on her knees cleaning other people's houses so I could eat. She never raised her voice, never complained. She just showed up, day after day, loving quietly. That's the strength that lasts. The loud kind burns out. The quiet kind roots deep. After rounds, she joined Caleb and Chloe in the garden. They sat on a bench beneath a canopy of artificial stars that twinkled even in daylight. "Mommy," Chloe said, tracing a finger along the gold chain at Adrianna's neck, "do you miss Great-Grandma?" "Every day," Adrianna answered. "But she's still here, in the hospital, in the way we treat people, in the way we love each other." Caleb leaned against her side. "Grandpa says she's proud of us." Adrianna kissed the top of his head. "She is, and so am I." That evening, the house smelled of fried chicken and collard greens, Miss Geneva's Sunday recipe, passed down through memory and careful hands. Marcus arrived with dessert, peach cobbler from the same bakery that used to deliver to Geneva's porch when Adrianna was small. After dinner, the twins raced outside to chase fireflies. Adrianna and Marcus stayed on the porch, sweet tea sweating in their glasses. "You built all of this," she said, nodding toward the glowing windows of the house, the distant silhouette of the hospital on the skyline. "For all of us," Marcus corrected gently. "I had money, Geneva had wisdom, you had heart. Together, we made something that outlasts any fortune." Adrianna looked at her children, two small shadows darting through the yard, jars glowing with captured light.
I used to think strength was surviving alone. I was wrong. Strength is knowing when to let people in, when to rise, not just for yourself, but for the ones who come after. Marcus reached over and covered her hand with his. You rose, baby girl, and you brought the light with you. Inside, the twins called for one more story before bed. Adrianna stood, brushing crumbs from her shirt. Coming, she answered. She walked back into the house, into warmth, into noise, into the life she had fought for and the family she had reclaimed. Outside, fireflies continued their silent dance. Somewhere in the quiet night, the truth settled like roots. Real power doesn't shout. It endures. It waits. And when the moment arrives, it changes everything without ever raising its voice.
Now Pulse, go back and click the like and subscribe button now so you won't miss the next story.